everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Barely Filtered. And today we have on some very special guests. It's actually Bring Your Parents to Work Day. So I have here my mom, Susan, and my dad, Peter. And they didn't come here just to record the podcast. The wild life of Peter and Susan Culpo, they actually flew out here from Rhode Island to do this gig with Olivia. So that's what you're here for work.
Couple of things.
You're here for
Not
work
the
or
only
pleasure?
thing that I'm doing with Olivia, but
Yeah. What else are you doing
I'm
with
going
her?
to get beautified.
Oh, you're getting glam.
I think so.
Okay.
And
you're
and
doing
I'm also
Lakewood?
doing Bulgari. Yeah. That not good. Yeah.
She's doing Bulgari?
Yeah.
What are you going to do in it?
I'm getting a pocketbook.
Okay.
Pretty good.
Yeah, a pocketbook. I feel like some of the words you say, I feel like you got it from like, I don't know, it just
My mother.
Yeah, like pocketbook is from like the 1800s England. Like,
I also say knapsack.
yeah, what is a knapsack?
It's a
It sounds like you're from
backpack.
Downton Abbey or something.
knapsack. I don't know. I don't know where it comes from.
When you
Well,
remember you
knapsack.
said it to Remy, and Remy was like, "It's not a knapsack, it's a backpack." He's like so offended because I think he thinks that you're telling him that he takes naps.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Well,
I guess I'll start by introducing you guys. And so we'll start with my dad. Well, I think we'll just rewind. So Peter and Susan met at music school, Boston University. My dad was an aspiring trumpet player and my mom was an aspiring violist. My mom, well, no offense, but my dad couldn't quite cut it to play in the United States. So he played for a little while in Venezuela. It's kind of like a basketball player, you know, if they're not good enough to play in the U.S., they go abroad somewhere. That's what happened to him. So he played in Venezuela for a little bit. And feel free to interrupt if none of this is correct. And then my mom was really talented. So she got to play with the Boston Pops and the Rhode Island Philharmonic. And she still plays actually today. So when my dad realized that he wasn't going to be able to make any money as a trumpet player, he started opening restaurants. And he found that he was actually pretty good at it. And he ended up opening, how many restaurants have you opened in your life?
Around 10.
Okay.
We still have 8 of them.
Okay. Pretty good.
But
Pretty
then
good.
after that was too hard. Once you get into the restaurant business, you realize this is really hard. And then I just said, I'm going to have to figure out another way to get out of it. So I just started saving all my cash. They didn't have to blow on all you little rugrats. And then I got into real estate, and that was way better.
Okay. Okay. And my mom still plays the viola. Meanwhile, here's where the timing, there's a little bit of a question here because they got married and like 6 months later, my brother was born. So
7.
Yeah. So that was a shotgun wedding.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. So you guys would you have gotten married if you didn't get accidentally pregnant with Pete?
Probably.
I can't believe we're getting into all this. If you're going to tell the story, you at least should do it right. We went out for 2 years, like 7 or 8 years before that.
Uh-huh.
So after she dumped me, then for 7 years we didn't go out.
Okay.
And all along the way, her mother would see me at concerts or one place or another and say, "Don't worry, Peter, you're the best so far."
Okay.
But also we worked together at the Sevens on Charles Street. He got me a job when I came back
That's
from
a bar
Tango.
in Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so we worked together.
Before I
So
left
we
to go
were
to
always kind of
Venezuela.
around each other, knew what
Okay,
the other
so
person was
you
doing.
liked her. She didn't really like you that much. And then you guys...
Kind of like now.
So then she dumped you. 7 or 8 years later, you were still hanging around somehow.
Yeah.
What did you guys have, like a one-night stand or something? And then you got pregnant with Pete, and then you decided to get married?
It was definitely
to
one
save
night,
face?
but we were kind of starting to go out, and then very quickly there really wasn't another option because she was pregnant.
So you trapped her.
Not intentionally. I
Wasn't
think.
intentionally? Really?
Well, it's not
No.
like it's
Did
not
you
like,
trap him?
No, but I think that I think we were elated. It was like
That's
the
not the
best
question.
thing we ever did.
The question is, how did this really happen?
Well, we've just,
mean-
mistake. You know?
No, but
I mean,
like
it
sometimes
wasn't
girls
planned,
are on stuff. I mean, you weren't on anything, you know, and you didn't like in the heat of the moment say, "Hey, you got a rubber on, don't you?"
Oh,
you know, that's
God.
nothing like that.
We don't even call them that
God.
here anymore. Okay.
What do you call them?
Well,
just
we don't call them
forget
anything
that.
because we don't, well, I don't know. We call them condoms.
Just know that it was, to
Rubber's
me,
not a dirty
it's
word.
so
We
funny.
call them rubbers.
Oh, God.
I feel like it's just like
prophylactic is actually the,
prophylactic.
yeah, it's just,
Okay.
Now that
well-
you got me thinking about this, and there was one company that made them. And
oh,
Yeah.
God.
what was the name of the company?
Trojans.
There you go.
Wow.
Trojan. Not
Okay.
Trojan, just no S.
Trojan. Okay, so
Oh, this is just awful.
well,
Let's skip
that's what we
this.
do here. So, okay, so I haven't gotten my answer yet. So neither of you trapped each other, but it was a mistake. But you were happy about the mistake.
Elated.
You
For
were-
me, I
was.
was.
You were
We were
happy.
both so happy.
You were happy because now she had no other choice. than to end up with you because you knew she wasn't going to have a baby without getting married because she wanted to look a certain part, right?
No, that's not it. No, are you kidding? Even I remember my mother telling me, you don't have to get married. No, I wanted to. I was happy.
Hold on.
I always knew that Dad loved me, and we knew each other. Do you know what I mean? Like, he knew me, and still to this day, we know each other so well. Do you know what I mean?
I still really like her,
I
and
knew
she
he was
really doesn't like me.
I knew today when he drank coffee, he was going to get a stain right here. I just knew.
Yeah, so why didn't you put a bib on him?
I should have, but then,
This is really noteworthy, though, because we're married like 20 years.
Yeah.
Auntie Cena, she's gone now. She told me, she said, it's so good that Susie married you, blah, 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 because she didn't have to. We had like a family meeting, and they said that we could raise the baby on our own, and that your mother magnanimously declared, no, the baby should have a father.
Oh, and you were
I said that?
available.
No, Auntie Cena told me
that my mother
that
said
you
that.
said that.
Oh, that you said, the baby should have a father?
Yeah.
She made it up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not like if she didn't
I was
marry
still
you,
the
you're
best so
not
far,
the father.
even after 20 years of marriage.
No, I think he's making that up.
No,
Where was
Auntie
I?
Cena told me that.
You never told me that one before.
I did too. You never listen to what I say. She doesn't listen to anything I say. I definitely told her that.
He was waiting to be on air for camera. He tried to bring you on the Maury show once, but you weren't
It's not the greatest story in the world, so if I was going to make something up, I'd make something up way better than that.
Yeah, but I don't know what to say.
Okay,
about
all right,
that.
Mom. I don't know. I kind of believe him more than you. I can hear you being like, the baby should have a father. I mean, you don't need to get married to be the father. You still could be the father.
Yeah,
Look,
I just thought I knocked her up, and now we're getting married, and everybody's happy. Yeah. But there was like a family discussion. Well, you don't have to marry him, blah blah blah.
But she said she wanted to. That's so beautiful.
Well,
And it wasn't because I thought, I don't know. This is just silly.
Okay, so that happened.
Well, you want to know what happened after
Then
that?
No.
Okay.
Hold on. Then they got married. Do you still have that dress?
I do.
Okay.
I was waiting for maybe you to wear it at your next wedding.
Well, I can. There's still hope.
Yeah.
And then they got married. And then what happened next? So Pete was born. And then after that, I was born. And I was probably not a mistake, right? I was probably planned.
Oh, absolutely
on purpose.
not. Peter was 6 months old.
Oh, I was a mistake too?
Well, we just not unplanned. I wouldn't say a mistake. I never thought of my baby. I was pregnant 5 times and it was never planned. Like, how did that happen?
My birthday is July 4th.
It's very irresponsible.
Yeah, extremely. I
was born July 4th. 9 months later, what's your birthday?
Yeah, April 4th. I know that. But that's actually not how babies are. It's
Sophie is 9 months from Valentine's Day. And I still regret to this day that I didn't. I guess we like holidays. I guess to this day, I had named her Valentina. So much better. Sophie's too popular of a name. Oh, well.
Yeah,
so anyway, live and learn.
Well, listen, Sophie is not
opposed
opposed to just changing her name in adulthood. So maybe she was Sophie for her whole life. Now she's Sophia. I don't think it's too far off to then start calling herself Valentina.
Yeah.
Well, as long as you're talking about Sophie, when Mom was pregnant with Sophie's whole life, when she was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I'd look at her and I'd say, Soph, did I ever tell you the story about how when Mommy found out you were in her tummy? Right, and Sophie would look at me like, right, and of course you can only do this in front of your mother, right? And then I would tell the story where she took a pregnancy test and it didn't turn out very well for her, so she went to the store, bought another one, came home, took it, looked at it, whipped it against the wall, and just broke down crying.
Yeah, I know. I heard about that because you didn't really. Well, we haven't gotten to that yet.
Because Gus was 5 months old and I was 37 years old, and I was just trying to be a better viola player. And I almost had done well in a Boston Symphony audition, so that was my goal. And now when I think about it, when I think back, and this is like a life lesson, it was the best thing I ever did, and I would have been so miserable if I had ended up doing that for my livelihood rather than being the mother of 5. And yeah.
So we're going to back up a little bit because people don't know. Okay, so they had Pete, then they had me, then they had 3 years later they had Olivia.
Yeah.
And then after that you had Gus. So here they are, like 36 years. You're 37. You're 36.
I'm 37 when I had. No, maybe not.
Okay, you're 37, you're 36. They have 4
I'm 8 years older than her.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
really doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay, you're 37, you're 36. You had 4 kids under the age of what? That's true.
7. Yeah.
That's correct.
You had 4 kids under the age of 7?
Sure I did. Yeah. When I brought Sophie home, Pete had he hadn't even turned 9. He was going to turn 9 in December. Yeah. Right?
Well, you know how I tell everybody I got gray hair?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, hold on, guys. I'm still trying to get.
okay.
I'm setting the stage, and you're interrupting with the little. It doesn't matter if you're 36 or
You
37.
guys told me it was kind of like free association.
It is, but people need to be able to follow. Imagine them in their car being
right.
like, "Well, this guy
Who
just
gives a
be
crap
quiet."
how old they were?
Yeah.
Is really what
Okay.
I would say. But anyway.
All right. Okay. So anyway, so you were 36 and 37, 4 kids under
No,
the
I'm
age
2
of.
years older than her. We have to
Oh,
do that
you're
right.
2. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So if she's 36, I'm 38.
Okay, you're 38. She was 36. You have
Okay.
4 kids under the age of 7. And then, Mom, you then were really trying to be a better violist. And I remember you would practice for like 5 hours a day playing the viola to the point where when I hear a string instrument, I'm not even kidding, like I have a visceral reaction to it, PTSD, because it makes me feel annoyed and lonely at the same time, because I remember you would not pay attention. You would just sit in your little chair with the dog underneath your chair, and you would just practice for like 5 hours, and we'd be like, when is she going to stop? When is she going to stop? And it was like, you just like tuned everybody out and you would just practice. And so that when I hear string instrument, I'm just like, I hate it. It makes me feel so mad. And all that time, you were also going on tour a lot. You were touring in Japan. And I remember you would come back and you would be kind of resentful at her for leaving you with 4
Remember
kids.
the song Tokyo?
Yeah, Tokyo.
Mommy go to Tokyo. Why she go? We don't know. Mommy go to Tokyo.
Yeah, I do remember that. Another traumatic.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. So she would leave us for Japan. You just had 4 accidental children. Then you just leave and go to Japan on tour. It's okay. Really irresponsible.
I would only do that once, like every 3 years for 14 days.
No,
Another
you
time
go
out.
every year.
No,
I added it
we
up.
would also go to Florida with the Pops. The Tokyo thing more was Boston Symphony.
You were touring a lot.
Not a lot. They don't do it that much. But yes, you could say maybe
But also,
2 weeks
you
every
had
year.
a concert every night.
Oh, I did. I worked
so
at
every
night.
night we'd come home from
Absolutely.
school and you'd be in your like black outfit about to leave.
That's so not true. I used
Yeah.
to. No, that's so not true because I would make dinner and then
You do it. You'd leave around 5 because your concert was at 8.
But I wouldn't leave around 5. I'd leave around 6:30, and I had black clothes at Symphony Hall. So you're making that up. I had a locker.
Well,
I don't
know. No, she had so many days like this where she had a 10:30 rehearsal in the morning. So she'd leave Rhode Island at 9 o'clock to get up there and park and have a rehearsal at 10:30. Rehearsal's over at around 1. She'd get in the car, drive back home, get back down around 2 or 2:30, pick you guys up from school, make dinner, get back in the car at 6 or 6:30 to drive back up for an 8:05 concert.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that was crazy.
Yeah. And then when the concert was over, she'd go to one of the restaurants that we had up there, and she'd get like a go cup of wine. Can you get in trouble for that? Because it's like
For drinking
So
and
you'd-
driving?
she'd take a
They
road
call it a
soda.
road soda. And a
Yeah.
sandwich, food, and wine.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And
after
drive
you
back home
had
and get home around
listen,
11.
if I had 5 kids at home, I was in Boston already once today.
Yeah.
Picked them up from school, made them dinner, went back to Boston,
That
played a
happened hundreds of
concert.
times.
I would stop somewhere to probably get something a little stronger than wine. So
No, but listen to this too. I would also take you to lessons. I know every Wednesday I would take Olivia to her cello lesson to Sylvia Rosenthal. I mean, I did things in between there too. Did laundry. It's like I did a lot
Yeah.
in those 14 years, but it was only 14 years that I did that all the time.
Yeah.
Then after that,
Only
they,
like your whole
they didn't want
childhood.
me. Yeah, pretty much your childhood.
Okay,
exactly.
here's something that I noticed that I feel like you guys do that you continue to do is like you guys. I don't know if that you think this is a cultural thing or like just what is it or. It was just what people did at the time, but it seemed like you guys had a lot of chaos jam-packed into your life, and you didn't really try to get a lot of help. Like we had babysitters and stuff, but like
We were cheap.
you were cheap.
Yeah, Dad didn't want to spend the money.
You're
Yeah.
thrifty.
You had to ask me a list of all the babysitters that I had for you kids, it would be hard for me to come up with all the babysitters that I had hired to have
Yeah,
you
we
throughout
kept
the
them
years.
until they couldn't take it anymore.
No, I used to try to, in the old days, you would put an ad in the paper and people would, babysitter wanted, and they would call and I'd say, I have 5 kids, and they'd hang up.
Yeah, so would I. You didn't list how many kids you had because nobody
I knew
would call you.
they wouldn't call even.
Okay. All right. Well, so do you feel like there's anything that you'd like to add to your introduction that my listeners should know about you before I proceed with the questions?
Well, just to add one last thing to this, you talk about a tough decade. I tell people how I got gray hair.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was 30 and I was single, and then I was 40, was married. I had 5 kids, and we had 4 businesses going, 4 restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a pretty rough decade.
Yeah. Well, I was there too. It was rough for me as well. I was 8.
I don't think it was
I'm
rough
just
for you
kidding.
guys. I think that
No.
you guys had when I think about it, I just don't think so. Also, I think about all the other kids that were around us, and I feel like not only did I help to raise my own children, but I had other kids that I feel like I had very much a part of their
Our house was
childhood.
Grand Central Station. Every kid in the
I
neighborhood
feel
that
that
could
way
come over and do
about the
anything.
Lesters. I
wreck
feel
the
that way
house,
about
bring dogs in, whatever.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, so, but also I'd like to take a little credit for that because I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think that people say, after you've had 3 kids, if you have them consecutively, like you guys did, like 1.5 to 2 years apart, it becomes like a self-sustaining ecosystem where I'm now 9 years old, Sophie's 1 or 2, and you didn't if you need help, I'm at the age where I don't have a car, I don't have anything to do. I'm just like I'm a slave.
You wanted $3.
No, but no, but not only that, but you enjoyed it. I do think that you love. I remember saying, Aurora, can you fix Sophie's hair? Because you were so much better at it than I was. Yeah. So I mean, definitely we relied on you because you were capable. Do you think I asked Pete to do things like that?
Oh,
no,
that's
because
so rude.
no, but
First
because
you say he's
boy.
a mistake, then you say he's not capable.
No, I love him dearly, but he wouldn't. I mean, if I had asked him to fix Sophie's hair, I think it wouldn't have turned out well.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you could even find him, because my boys were not like you were always there.
Okay.
Right with me.
So do you think birth order, so once again, my older brother Pete, then 15 months later is me, 3 years later is Olivia, 15 months later is Gus, and then 3 years later is Gus, 15 months later is Sophie. Do you think that birth order had anything to do with how you've seen our personalities develop as we've grown?
Well, I certainly think Sophie, as the youngest, there's something about being the youngest. She's the cutest. She's the one that didn't learn to speak until she was older because I think everyone spoke for her. And I think that was unusual, but she was the quietest of my children because I think she couldn't get a word in edgewise, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Hey, back to the hair thing. Hold on. Don't you remember Tubby Time? How many times did I comb your hair? Because Mom always had a concert.
Yeah, you
every
did.
night.
I know you did that slick
Every
back
bath-
thing. Okay,
Yeah.
but no, I'm getting into the about
And
me
all the
stuff.
tangles. I knew how to
Yeah,
hold the top of the hair and then, get the tangle off that way so you don't pull it out by the roots.
So we're going to keep talking about birth order because I think, okay, you guys have seen, obviously throughout our childhood, of all your kids, who would you say had like a rebellious phase?
you definitely.
Okay, did
And
any
Pete
of you?
was sneaky. So Pete, you didn't know.
Yeah.
Pete never missed a day of school, and then one day he was sick. I said, "Wow, Pete he was a senior in high school." And then I realized he had gotten caught. Someone was talking about smoking a blunt, and Pete and anyway, so that's why he was sick. He wasn't.
Oh,
sick.
he would get in trouble at school.
He didn't tell me. In other words, he was a little.
The boys
sneakier.
always did stupid things. Like
Remember his yellow backpack? He had that thing for like how many years?
It wasn't yellow. It was army green.
okay, anyway, again. We're going to have a lot of editing work to do here. So, okay, so why do you think I had a rebellious phase, but none of your other kids did? Do you think it's personality or do you think it's maybe a little bit to do with?
I think it was your friends, the people that you were around that would influence you. And I think it was just your personality. Olivia was just the most dutiful child. She is still to this day.
Yeah.
You ask her to do something and she...
Goody two-shoes.
Yeah, she's kind of a goody two-shoes in that regard.
You ask her to do something, she will not just do it right away. She pretends that she doesn't hear you. And then if it's something she really doesn't want to do, she won't budge. She's like extremely stubborn.
Well, I don't know. All I'm saying is that you definitely were just a little bit more rebellious. And if I asked you to do something, you were pretty good too. You know what? All my kids were pretty good. None of you were terrible. None of you were scary. I think there are some people that live with scary children. I didn't have that. I was so lucky. You kids were good.
We're going to just pivot a little bit into relationship stuff because that's what I like to talk about on this show mostly. If you can recall in the back of your memories anywhere, what was dating like when you were in your 20s? And do you have any stories that would never fly today?
Man.
20s or 30s? I guess you guys weren't dating in your 20s, but I mean, you weren't dating in your 30s.
Yeah.
When I was in my 20s, when I was young.
Mom Mom would go out with guys. Mom would have a boyfriend
Yeah.
that she didn't even like.
Yeah.
And she'd waste like a year of her life or even
Right.
longer with him.
Because
And
it
then-
was protection, though.
Mom, you're like
always said that.
you're the black cat and you're the golden retriever. There, in every relationship, there's a golden retriever and there's a black cat. And the black cat is the one who like they kind of could take or leave you, but like they do like you, but they're not going to like they're the kind of person that has probably never been like desperately heartbroken. They have a pretty secure or avoidant attachment style, which means like they're not going to get hung up if somebody isn't calling them back, or they're not going to feel anxious in the relationship. Where the golden retriever lives to please, and really their entire self-esteem is basically based on like, what does this black cat think of me? And I see that a little bit in like Sophie's relationships. If you've seen her in relationships, she's always kind of like she really likes the person, but she doesn't get like desperately in love or heartbroken. I mean, she has, but she was in a that situation was different. But and I think I'm definitely more like you, where I'm like I can be very consumed by relationships. Would you guys agree that you're the golden retriever and you're the black cat?
I don't
you're
know.
a lot like me.
Yeah.
You got a lot of that. Like,
Poor thing.
Yeah.
So, but and also
Yeah.
you kind of were like that in all your relationships, right? Like you
I think
kind
I
of
broke a lot of hearts
You
when
broke
I
a
was
lot of
young.
hearts?
But when
No,
I was
every
young,
single one.
Yeah,
when I was young, I really mean this. There was a time in my life where I would get asked out by somebody every day. Every day I would
Remember
meet
telling
somebody
me
that would ask me
And
out.
that's why she
I'm
liked
not
having
kidding.
a boyfriend, because she could always just deflect, have a
Yeah.
boyfriend.
No, because I'm nice, because I like to talk to people.
Because she
Yeah.
talks to people she shouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, no, because I was lucky. I never met creepy guys, nothing like that.
Well, you did
But-
say one time you were coming home from Boston and you rolled down your window and some guy stuck his penis in your car.
No, that was when I was. It
long
was
penis.
Mother's Day. It was Mother's Day, and no, I had flowers, and I remember the outfit, and and some guy pulled down, one of those horrible, stupid things. But anyway, rolled down the window and asked me for directions. I'm like,
Oh
but I mean,
my God!
that used to happen
you
a lot.
stopped and let some guy.
How can he do that while he's driving?
he was pulled over to the side of the road. Oh, believe me, it's a
Mom,
technique.
you
he
pulled
was-
over to help
I
some
was
guy.
walking. I was
Oh,
walking,
and you
he-
stopped at his car.
Yeah, because he said, "Excuse me," and
I feel like that's
it was Mother's
he-
Day. I had
he's in his
flowers
car.
for my mother. I was going to
Oh.
take a bus to
Still,
Rhode
if
Island.
he's in his car in the
no.
seat, how can you whip it out the window?
Because it was already there. He already had it in place.
You'd have to like stand up in your seat.
No, he was sitting and he was
No,
probably
come
like,
on, playing with himself. Oh, and I remember being
you
in
went over.
Boston.
You went over to the window.
Exactly, because he
Oh.
asked me for directions.
Mistake number one.
Anyway.
but it's
So,
somewhere
so mom's in these fabulous relationships where she
No,
doesn't really
I'm
like the
not.
guy, but it's protection. And then she dumps the guy, and the poor guy's like heartbroken, 'cause
I didn't have
She's like,
that
I
many.
never
I
even
didn't
really
have that
liked
many
you.
boyfriends.
No,
oh,
but every
God.
boyfriend you had, that's the way that it was.
Maybe.
Yeah. Whereas I wouldn't waste it's like, well, I don't like that girl that much, and I would just never even go out on the first date or anything. You
Right.
know? So I pretty much just was hung around by myself. I never had a girlfriend.
You had a girlfriend
I'd
when we
two
worked at
girlfriends
the
or
Sevens.
something.
When you worked at the Sevens.
Yeah.
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 And you probably really liked him.
She did,
Yeah,
until he-
well, that's the point.
until
I wouldn't waste
he
my
realized
time
that she
unless
had
I really liked
alcohol
them.
problems.
That's when I was in South America.
Oh,
Yeah, the
when
German girl.
Oh, you were dating a German girl in South America?
Yeah.
And then she came here, and
Yeah,
then
then she came here. We lived in the North End for a while.
and it was
And it was
scary.
disaster.
You lived with her in the North End?
I had the marriage license, the blood test, everything.
Well, I didn't know about this.
Well, you do now. And she was like a national class swimmer, and we drank a lot, and I didn't even realize it at the time, but I looking back, it's like, well, that relationship was always going to be hopeless unless, we stopped to drink. Not because I had to, because I had to do it to support her, but she could not drink. She would drink, and she would black out, and she'd be awful. It was just, and then she'd torture me, And I remember once we were watching TV, and there was a girl that came across the TV, and she goes, "Peter, how do you like the way this girl looks?" All right.
Was she drunk or was she just German?
Yeah, we had a few, right? And yeah, and then I thought, oh, she's pretty, and she exploded. Why? Because she didn't know that I like girls that look that way.
Oh, well, that's your mistake.
Right. But the point is, whether that incident or all the others, the next day,
Yeah.
she would have no recollection of any of it.
Okay.
So complete total blackout.
Yeah.
So if you're at that point, you can't drink.
Right.
And I never even knew if I knew what was going on and that you'd have to stop drinking, that would have been a tough situation.
So
'Cause
you
it's
broke up
would
with
I be
her?
willing? Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Okay, and then you
I,
dated
well, I
Mom?
ruined my job. I left South America, came home. Didn't feel like playing anymore, kind of basically,
Oh, I see what you did there.
No,
So-
but you had already quit your job, and she came to visit you. You were in
No.
Venezuela.
She drove me nuts. like Aurora said, if I put all the emphasis on the relationship was probably more important to me than the trumpet, and everything just kind of fell apart,
Yeah.
So I came home, but then, of course, you have to go into the next phase where, like, I missed her terribly for a year.
Yeah.
And she had grabbed a hold of some English guy, and that guy dragged her to England,
Yeah.
and then he figured it out.
Oh.
And then next thing you know, she's back home in Berlin.
Oh.
Okay?
Do we know where
and
she
then
is
I went
today?
to Berlin. I went to Berlin and picked her up and brought her back with me.
That's how I met her. That's how I knew her.
I brought her into a bar where she was working. And
Did that make you jealous at all?
No.
Come on.
No, but no, we didn't.
She's like, what don't you understand? I never
she still
liked
doesn't
you.
like me. She's never, yeah, right. She's never liked me.
No,
What? You're supposed to be jealous at that point. And if you're
She
not,
was.
something,
I remember
knock,
that
knock.
I remember she was pretty. No, because
She never
you know
was
what?
jealous.
You know why?
Why? You never liked him.
She never had a.
You don't worry when you're number one. I knew he liked me better. I knew I was number one. I always knew.
Oh,
Interesting.
you know what?
Sorry.
Hold on.
Wait, we kind of have a parallel
No, you're gonna love
because
the
you
story.
remember when I was in law school and then I got really like heartbroken by that guy and then I was like, oh, I'm going to quit law school. I'm going to move to California.
Remember, who was the
And-
law school guy?
Just
I can't
don't
tell you
say.
on-
Shush.
I know. No, but I'm just trying to remember.
Oh,
There was a
please.
soccer player.
No, it was never. No,
No,
Tom.
Oh, geez. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And anyway, so yeah. So I get that. Like you go through a breakup and then everything
you were tortured. That took you like two years.
no longer than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That when you're, I understand being like, going through a breakup of whatever kind and then
Yeah.
everything that's in your life at that time you have to just like almost just change scenery completely and just start at, like
Right.
it's like alcoholism where they're
It's like
the
a
only
drug
thing you
addict.
need to change is absolutely everything.
Yeah.
You know,
Your
that's one of the-
environment.
you have to change every single thing that reminds you of that person because you need to because we're golden retrievers. Mom never you don't even know what we're talking about, do you?
No.
Yeah.
No, but I do have golden retrievers, and they're like gerbils, and they just don't have much personality, and they only
Golden
want
retrievers
treats.
have tons of personality.
Oh, God, no.
But the way, you know what? I guess she kind of gets a pass because she never knew what was going on. But I mean, if she did know what was going on and she did that, talk about karma. Oh, she would have been, that's the worst. She'd have a whole history of bad karma.
What?
For what?
What she did to men.
Oh,
She broke so many hearts.
of breaking hearts. Well, she
Yeah.
didn't.
Right.
No,
she
no.
gets a
You know what
pass 'cause
she
they know
did?
she's
You know what
doing
she
it.
did? She taught the men valuable lessons about not putting all of your self-worth in the hands of somebody else. Because that's what happens when you have a black cat that you're trying
No.
desperately to make love you. But like the thing is, black cats are never. Doesn't matter how good you are, they're never going to give you
No.
the validation that you need.
No, Groucho Marx one time, he said he's married like 5 or 6 times, and he said, every time I got married, I married a beautiful girl. And he's thinking about what he said, and then he goes, if I had to do it over again, this time I wouldn't marry a beautiful girl, I'd marry somebody with brains. And then he thought about it a little more, and he said, nah, I'd go out and marry another beautiful girl because that's what I am.
Yeah.
So you would love the same way, and you get your heart broken again. It's going to happen. You can't change that.
No, that's not true. I've learned how to not.
Well, you made better picks.
You make better picks, but also I think the way that I dated in my 20s compared to the way I date in my 30s, especially after a divorce and having kids, I know some of the thing. I can catch myself when I feel like I'm acting in a way to try to persuade somebody to think a certain way about me or to get them to like me, to try to convince somebody.
Which you know is not going to work in the long run.
Well, yeah, because you can't maintain that.
Right, that's what I mean.
And also, if somebody doesn't like you on their own, accord, then you never want to feel like you're strong arming somebody into.
Yeah, and plus the pieces all fit from almost inception anyway. It just fits.
So I think maybe
No,
my
it's something
listeners
to bring
probably have a
along.
little more insight into why, because I've said on my podcast before, and Uncle Mark and cousin Mike and everybody's like, you're so mean talking about your dad like that, blah, blah. But I've told my guests that whenever I've gone on dates, I don't talk about it to you anymore because your first question for me is, oh, do you think they liked you? Rather than, did you like them? Which I find to be a very insulting thing to ask me. But what do you have to say about that?
To me, it's a foregone conclusion that you liked them because you went out on the date. So I'm not worrying about whether you liked them. You liked them because otherwise you wouldn't go out on the date.
Are you
Duh.
worried that she'll get hurt?
No.
You're crossing your fingers. You're like, oh, I hope this one likes her or something like that. Is that what you're thinking? Or
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
the wrong answer.
No, because I already know that you like them because you went out on the
But not
date.
necessarily. I
Well,
mean,
then why'd you go out on the date then?
because I'm giving them a trial run. Like, you're getting to know somebody. I don't know if I like them
you see,
yet.
for me, I would already know that I was crazy about that person.
Before you go on the first date with them? That's crazy.
We were an orchestra. Mom was in the viola section. I was over there in the trumpet section. It was spring. All right. She had on this T-shirt, blue, that said Hawaii on it. And she had it was a nice T-shirt. Okay. Okay. So all that was going on. And I bumped the trumpet player next to me. And I said, wow, when did she get here? And the guy goes, September when semester started. And I could not believe that she had been there for like 6 or 7 months. Right. But across the room, I was already mad about her.
Yes, that's not love. That's mental illness. That's not. Okay,
but you know what? He was 21 and I was 19, so we were really young.
Yeah, I mean, we're practically 70 now. So I mean, I knew what I was doing.
Healthy relationships don't start by knowing that you like somebody.
For me, they do.
You get to know them. Yeah, for me they do too, but that's the problem.
Yeah, but once you start to talk to them within 60 seconds, I can already know that if obviously no, it's just like
that is true. That's what Malcolm Gladwell says in his book Blink. He says within the first, I forget it, like 90 or 60 seconds, you generally know how you feel about. Right. You generally have your answers of like, is this somebody that I could be with for any amount of time?
I'll be so crazy to even go out and say from across the room, even just looking at them, I knew what the first 60 seconds was going to be like. I knew the conversation was going to go a certain way. This is really crazy, but just on a physical thing, I actually felt that I thought all the other pieces were going to be right there.
Okay, so you think you can determine just the way that her aura and the way. So do you ever feel like you were like sadly mistaken and somebody disappointed you because you went up and talked to them and they like talk like this or something like that and something that you weren't expecting? No,
because I didn't have to look anymore.
Oh, because you already liked her, so you didn't have any chance to. I think if you had if something hadn't worked out with mom and you had continued to date, you would have quickly learned that you can't just size somebody up from across the room and know whether you're going to like them.
Yeah, you probably can't, but within the first 60 seconds, then you do know.
Then you do. That's all you need. 60 seconds.
Maybe you do when you're young. Maybe that's like, how people that have like their high school sweetheart, that kind of thing. Maybe you have an innocence when you're young that you don't when you're older.
I think maybe when you're young, you travel in tighter circles with people who are more likely to have similar values and families and things.
Have you ever, like I remember my old dentist, the orthodontist, I didn't get braces, but the kids did. But I remember he telling a story. He went to Cranston East and he saw his wife on the back of a bus in high school and he fell in love with her and he still loved her to that day. And they were married and that was just such a beautiful story. So I think I've heard.
There are stories like that. I think there's a certain kind of a person too who just decides that they're going to love somebody and then they just do it.
Right, exactly. So that's all I'm saying is that's kind of an innocence, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
You know what else too? You can never discount whatever setting you're in. If you're, I don't know, like if you're out here in California and you're in the entertainment business or something, and you're coming across from all these little small towns that all came out here to try to make a go at something, and they're all fabulously good looking and they're all fabulously witty. And when you throw all those guys together, I think that's harder on any relationship if you're growing corn in Nebraska.
Oh, so you're saying there's more competition in certain areas?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess that you could see just celebrity couples, how unlikely it is that they're going to last. And probably some of that has to do with all the temptation. So you guys have been married, what, for 37 years now?
Yes, indeed.
No.
Yeah. Oh, yes,
just
Peter,
give me a number, Dad.
No.
Oh, my God, he's going to.
No, it's 38. Okay, right, it's 30. How old's Pete?
We were married.
He's 38. Pete's 38.
Okay.
No, he's 37 because I'm 36. Yeah.
So he's 37. No, we're both
married.
Right. In June, it's going to be 38 years.
Okay. So
but hold on. But I'd say it's 37 because when you really do the math and add up all the trips, Japan, Europe. How many times you go to Japan?
8.
Okay.
Oh, so when she's
been gone for over a year.
Yeah, so you're not actually you're deducting time off your marriage for all the time she up and left us.
Off with the boys in the band.
So you guys have been married for almost 38 years.
We're getting a big fight out of this. Hope you're happy.
You're ridiculous.
You guys have been married for almost 38 years. What did you used to believe about love and marriage that you no longer believe? Mom's like, I've had no thoughts or beliefs.
Well, no, I know one thing I can tell you. When I was coaching Little League with the chief of police in Cranston, when Gus played, right? And he told me, he said, Pete, marriage is like a diamond. It starts down here, right? And things are going okay, but it gets out to the end of it, the stress point there, and a lot of them don't turn the corner. But if you can turn the corner and bring it in that way, it all ends well.
Aw.
And I thought about it, and there's some truth to that.
All right.
It's very simplistic, obviously.
So do I want to hear what was the corner? that you guys had to turn.
Well, imagine the shape of a diamond.
No, I know, but metaphorically. Wow. See, I never said they were smart.
Yeah, well, it might be just time or something like that.
Well, okay. When there were all the kids and we had a house full of kids and it's just survival and you're just working real hard to get through everything that you there's no stress point there because you're just trying to deal with everything.
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know, maybe when you've been married for 20 years or something and you get to that point and it's not like life or death anymore, maybe that presents new challenges. I don't know. Because otherwise I don't know how to answer it.
See, because I do think I know. First of all, when people tell me that marriage is hard work, I would never have worked that hard. Never. So for me, marriage was never hard work. And for me, having
That gives me
5
credit.
kids, it was the best thing I ever did. But this is the caveat. I had 5 healthy children and I could feed them and we could work hard. And that's another thing. I worked, but we took my money and we didn't we used it to buy things. So it's not like I was working and, it was incidental. It helped us to get what we got. So, when you talk about me going on tour or whatever, I mean, I was working and I enjoyed it because I was playing for a living rather than like digging a ditch. It certainly was.
Yeah.
So anyway, for me, when people say marriage is work, I would never have been married to this day if it had been work. I worked at other things, but I don't want to have to work at my relationship with Dad. Dad wakes up happy in the morning. He can be awful by the end of the day, but he wakes up happy, and that makes it easier.
Oh, okay. So you like him because you like that he wakes up happy? Don't you think he wakes up a little too happy? It's a little
it can drive me
annoying.
crazy. I got to get my coffee in me.
I
Then
don't like to
can
talk
keep
to
up with
her.
him.
We're like,
coffee.
can you just tone down the chipperness until like 10 a.m.?
And another thing, too, is I never had a father. My father died when I was young. So
That's a
for
big
me,
thing.
hanging around even with a man in my house and realizing I never really liked anybody's fathers that much growing up because I hated when they yelled. It was so loud and scary. Like I didn't have that growing up. And my mother was wonderful. So that's another thing that for me of having a man around, like Dad didn't make it. He wasn't scary. Like he was.
I feel like Dad was scary.
Maybe to you he was, but he wasn't to me.
Well,
Why was that scary?
Well, because you did. Don't you? I mean, I'll just say it, but like you had no patience until, and actually you're still like that. When I see you with my kids, you really don't do well when there's kids that are not behaving like adults. You don't like. If we spilled our milk or if one of us like fell off our bike, your first instinct is to get really mad because you're scared. And I see Remy does that too. If Remy like stubs his toe, he's like, he looks for the first person to blame. He's like, he needs somebody to take his anger out on. You're like that. And I think it got better as you got older.
If you fall off your bike, I'm scared to death whether you're hurt or not.
Yeah.
So that's what and I know not to yell at you like, why'd you fall off your bike? And I know that I realize that's not the way to take it. So I'm just yelling. I'm yelling at nobody.
Yeah, but I think you got more patient as you got older. Like you had your first kid when you were 30, right?
Just about 31.
Do you feel like you were emotionally equipped enough to be a parent at that time?
Sure.
Yeah, 30 is old enough. If you can't do it at 30,
no, I'm not
then...
saying can a 30-year-old. I'm saying does he think he was?
No, I'm thinking like a 19-year-old. Then you might think, oh, God,
Mom
that's kind of young. But 30
was hell-bent on having a kid before she was 30. That was her goal.
No, I know. I was too. But I just feel like you were way more laid back in your like 40s. And that the dad I got was not the dad Sophie got.
True, probably in any family.
But you're only like 7 years apart. How different could I have gotten in 7 years?
But you say your father from
Oh,
Paul.
don't get my father. Forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had a very impatient dad.
Yeah.
So
and also
I
I feel like, at 7 years, a lot can happen. You started making a little bit more money. You feel a little bit, your self-esteem is probably a little bit better. You're not like
that's all true.
Panicked. Now you're a father. You have 2 kids and you're like trying to figure out, okay, I'm not going to play the trumpet anymore. I got to do this restaurant thing and like the stress of all that.
Right.
So I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like I kind of like that people are having kids a little bit later nowadays. Like now, for the first time in like recorded history, more 40-year-olds than teens are having kids.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, we're going to talk about me for a little bit and how you guys feel about my situation. Okay, so how did you guys each feel when I told you that I was getting divorced?
You know what? It'd be fun about this. I'll tell you what I think Mom said, and then she can tell you what she thought that my opinion was.
So you guys are just going to fight if you do that.
Well, that's fun.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Mom, she didn't want it to happen. She wanted you to tell me, this is that you wanted her, no, you can't get divorced. The kids, it's awful for them. You can't do this. Why can't you work it out? What's the problem? What's really so bad? I mean, she probably didn't say it, but thinking in her brain, she was thinking, I put up with Dad,
Yeah.
But so that's what I thought. And
that's what she thought.
Yeah, that's what I think you thought. So do I tell you what I think? What I thought?
You can say what you think too. You talk for everybody.
Okay, yeah, I'm good at that. I thought the exact same thing.
No, you didn't.
No, I didn't want you to get divorced. I wanted to try to work it out. You know? Now,
I think everybody wants.
Yeah, I didn't want to see it happen. I want to see you work harder because it is harder on the kids, I mean, it was, my opinion was never anything like, well, it's about time you figured this out. What took you so long? No, it was horrible, I wish that it didn't have to happen.
Well, do you think my kids have suffered because of my divorce?
Not as much as they suffered, but not having their grandparents closer.
Well, why don't you guys move to California then?
Yeah, I know. It's pretty nice out here, but
I loved Mikey, and I still
He's
do.
not dead.
I know that. No, but anyway, and I just look at him as like he is, I think, a wonderful father.
He's a great father.
Yeah, I know.
But that's the thing. It's not like I took my children away from him.
No, not
He's
at
still
all.
such a good dad.
And I love Mikey. That's all.
Yeah,
So, and
you
I
can
wish
love
him well.
somebody and
I think your kids. At first, I was really worried, but I think that you've done so much for them. Mm-hmm. And also the fact that you have remained so close by, and it makes it so, but of course it's very expensive for you too, so I feel bad about that. But other than that, I think you managed it very well. I think you both should take a lot of credit, because it's awful when parents are mean to one another in front of the kids, because kids feel it. You feel it right in your stomach, and it ruins their life, I think. So I'm so glad that you guys did, I think, a great job.
Yeah.
But I still wish somehow in my mind that you would get back together. I know it's never going to happen, but I do, because I just do. Well, you showed your Easter pictures the other day. It's like, oh, they look so nice
I know.
together.
Every time I send a picture of us, my mom's like, do you ever? I'm like, just don't even. Shush. No, because then we're just going to go right into it. You guys know that I'm dating somebody new. Mm-hmm. When I got separated from Mike, it was 2022. I didn't start dating anybody until 2023. And then I dated maybe like a different person every few months. And because I have a podcast about relationships, it seemed like it just was, there was a lot of people, but maybe there was like 4 people that I've dated, and they were, some of them were pretty big personalities. One of them was like the con artist guy who ended up like completely lying to me about even being single. He, the one who had a family.
But see, didn't that make for good podcasting?
It did. It was great content. I don't regret it.
You should bring it back on.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe you date again.
Yeah, maybe give it another shot. It wasn't so bad. There's worse things he could have done. He was very generous.
How were your ratings?
Yeah, exactly. They actually was one of my best. Okay, so you guys are going to meet Zach tomorrow,
mm-hmm.
and what are you gonna say to him?
If people have seen his picture, they say he's hot. I don't think I think I won't say that.
You're not going to
him.
be like, you're hot. That'll be weird.
No, I'm sure. I hope you guys like each other. I do. Since you say you won't get back with Mikey, that's
Yeah. What's the next best thing? You got to find somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Well, I only saw pictures, but like he's like a real heartthrob type of guy?
I don't,
Yes, to answer your question.
Yes.
Oh, all right. Well, I didn't know that.
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess, I don't know. There wasn't really anything that juicy out of that conversation.
Yeah. Well, no, it's just because,
we haven't met him yet.
You haven't met him yet. You're going to see.
Right. Yeah. And we hope that we've got nothing to do with it, really. We just hope that you guys really get along and keep it going.
Yeah. I mean, that's...
So we don't really have much to do with it.
You don't have much to do with it, I guess.
Yeah, we don't have anything to do with it, really.
No, you don't. But you're gonna pay for dinner, so that's you got to do.
Your dad's so cool. Will you marry me?
Well, you guys get along about some things because he doesn't like makeup, and I'm like, oh, my dad will like that because he calls it war paint, and
the mosquitoes.
No, he calls makeup war paint.
Oh yeah.
No, mosquitoes are pimples.
No, Dad thinks that mosquitoes will stick to your skin because you have...
I would say that PETA's going to come after you guys because you're going to kill so many mosquitoes today.
Oh, because every time you walk, they stick to your face. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, we're gonna just...
Kinda.
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about aging and self-reflection, then we're going to go into the rapid fire. That'll be funny. Okay. What has surprised you about this stage of life? And Dad, I want you to answer this because I want you to talk a little bit about your decision not to drink alcohol anymore 10 years ago, even though, you don't do AA and you were never an alcoholic and I've never seen you drunk in your whole life.
Well, I've been drunk a million times, and you used to call me a fake alcoholic.
You are a fake alcoholic.
Yeah, and then when you were starting to have some problems with it, maybe then you kind of realized, well, maybe he wasn't faking.
Well, no, I think what I realized was now after my, not drinking and then drinking and all that, like I can see why you would stop because it makes life harder when you're having to battle anxiety that comes with alcohol. And I think at certain times in my life, I've been more susceptible to it affecting me in a negative way mentally. But now I'm kind of able to balance it a little bit more. And what I've realized for myself is that if I completely restrict myself from doing something altogether, then I end up picking, like when I didn't drink for that whole year, I ended up becoming addicted to vaping. It's just like I'll just fill it in with a different addiction. So it's better for me to just allow myself to drink a little bit here and there. But this is about you. So talk about what surprised you about this stage of life and talk about a little bit about why you decided not to have alcohol be part of your AARP years.
I always knew I was addicted to it since 9th grade. It's just like, you'd go out and party with your friends, and then like if you had a game the next night, well, can't drink any beer. This is like through high school. Big game tomorrow. No drinking. Same thing with the trumpet. If I had concerts, I had to play somewhere. But okay, but now I'm off. Now I can go out on those nights. And this is about alcohol. It's not about me being old right now. But as far as alcohol goes, it's progressive, and the longer you stay in the game. Look, I'm in the bar business. I've been within an active bar scene in the 80s and the 90s. I've seen a lot of stuff, right? And I don't know one person who was, let's categorize as a heavy drinker. Well, what's a heavy drinker? I'm going to say a heavy drinker is a guy that has 3 or 4, 5 beers, 3 or 4, 5 times a week. And when you're in your 20s and your 30s, and robust guys, that's not a big deal. But anybody that played like that, they're all gone. Either they stopped or they have major problems. So that's been my experience. It doesn't get better, it gets worse. So as I got older, it just got worse for me. And that's why I would try to stop. I'd stop a little bit, and then I'd invariably come back. And then I'd be back where I was before. And that's why you would call me a fake alcoholic, because I was functional, I was successful, a lot of things were happening. But inside it was just it was not good, and as you get older, you realize life is not a dress rehearsal. It's the performance every day of your life. And I was going through that life with really a monkey on my back. Maybe I don't have a lot of good skills, but one skill I have is I can really be honest to myself. And I knew that it's not normal to go through life that way. Basically, you're kind of like a junkie, because, when are you going to go out there and party again? And alcohol's serious stuff. It really is. You get back, you have a couple drinks, and you just start to melt and just slide into it, and it's no different than any other drug. So, and I didn't want to go my whole life that way. So I was able to pull out of it, and that was that. But on the aging thing, what would I say about aging? What? Okay, I'll be 69 in July. On July 4th, I'm 69. What am I? I tell Mom gets mad. I tell everybody. The next day, anybody that asks me how old I am, I'm going to say I'm going to be 70 on my birthday. Because it'll be true, right? So I'm getting up there. And you realize you lived so much time before me. I'd be lucky to live to 90, and that would be 20 years. And it's like, wow, 20 years is going to go pretty fast. So you just find yourself really trying to finally get things right. That's how I feel about it. It's like I really want to do things right. And when you're younger, you don't think that. But at this stage of the game, you really realize that
I feel like you've always been a person who wants to do things right. You're not like just somebody who's like, fuck it, let's spend all our money and go on vacation, or you've never been like irresponsible with your health or with money or with anything.
Well, you know what? I was good at that stuff, and I don't have to worry about that anymore. That stuff's all been taken care of. That petty's been put in that hole. So
what do you want to do right?
Maybe in human relationships.
You want to have more good social relationships? Yeah. Ever since I sent you the statistic about people who live the longest, the people who live the longest are people who have quality social relationships, social
more than diet, more than exercise.
Yeah,
right.
So you're gonna get some friends?
Nah, yeah, I don't know if I believe that either.
He goes, nah.
I don't know if I believe that.
No, it's true. The common thread between people who live in their hundreds is people who live in community and have friends.
I thought it was people that live near a hill because they have to walk up and down it all the time.
But they were doing it. I mean, that's true. But if you smoke a pack a day and you never exercise, you can be the most popular guy in the neighborhood. It's not going to work.
Well, it might help you live a little longer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mom, what?
To get to 100, you got to have all those things nailed, along with incredible genes.
Genes, yeah. Mom, what surprised you about this stage of life?
I guess for me, I look at life differently because I think that every day is a possibility that you won't be there the next day, honestly. And I think it's because, again, my father died when I was 4. My sister died when I was 15. She was 21. My mother died when she was 64. And I was just pregnant with you. So I look at life as completely unpredictable. So I think that you can have the greatest plans and try to take care of yourself and try to do everything right or whatever, but you never know what tomorrow will bring. Yeah, so I don't live that life the way he does, thinking, in 20 years from now, like Dad will always say, my grandmother lived to be 102, and somehow he thinks that that's going to make him be able to live to be 102. I just totally don't believe that.
That's more of a more morbid outlook than my outlook. Because I'm assuming that you're going to live longer. Yeah.
Well, you assume that you have more control over things than
And I feel
she
like
does.
you are in control of nothing.
She's vexing on something that has like a 1% probability that you're going to meet your untimely demise.
Well, I don't
that's
think
not likely.
death is the only thing she's saying is out of our control. I think, life can go in so many different ways.
So many different ways. And also how many people that you know and love that are around you that also something could happen to them that could completely change your life. When Katie had her...
Katie's my older brother's wife.
When she had her second child, she nearly died. And when I think about that day could have changed certainly our lives forever because we would have had two small, an infant and a 2 and a 3-year-old, and Pete would be a single dad. Just like anything could change your life. So
would have been tubby time all over again.
Oh, come on. Okay. Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. You guys have very different views on life. But somehow you seem to still get along.
On our past experiences, because I didn't have the kind of death that she had. My grandmother was almost 102. My grandfather drove himself to the hospital and died when he was just about 90. So we just kind of expect that. But that's interesting. It just goes to show you what those formative years, what it can do to you.
Yeah, interesting. Let's just do one more because I think people will like this one. What parts of aging are underrated or even better than being young?
That's a pretty cool question. That's the same. That's like asking, would you want to be young all over again?
I guess so, if you like that question better.
Yeah.
I have time to walk around the farm and I have more time on my hands than I ever did. And I also spend a lot more time by myself, which I really enjoy, I have to say.
You're a black cat.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not there.
And I like my own company. It doesn't bother me to be alone.
Yeah.
What do you like about aging? Because I know you were always kind of you didn't want to get older. You were a little afraid to get older. You liked being young. You like running. You like running and exercising. I think you always were afraid of your body failing on you slowly.
I still am. I do worry about it. I check it every day. No, but one really good thing about being older, that an advantage that an old person has on a younger person, you've seen so much, and you can really understand the whole spectrum of a life, and like where we are now. I mean, you have to admit it. It's like, we're getting, we're on we can almost see the clubhouse. We're on the 16th tee or something. So but with that comes a certain kind of wisdom or just depth of understanding about the whole experience of life, and that's an advantage that an older person has.
So what's one piece of wisdom that you feel like is helping you now that you didn't know before?
I don't know if I can answer it that way, but we have a perspective that younger people can't have.
Okay.
And so and that's pretty cool. I mean, all kinds of little things you can really appreciate. Like when I sit up in bed and the sun's out and you can hear the birds and and it's like you can stop for a second and really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's getting 5 kids ready for school.
You don't have time to stop.
No.
Because you're just in survival mode. I actually feel like that kind of creeps up on you because now I'm starting to realize I'm like, wow, that's a really pretty tree, or like that bird is like you just that you don't just become a birder. It just it slowly creeps up on you, and all of a sudden you care about trees and birds and stuff, which I think is interesting. But I mean, I'm only 36, but one of the things I've realized, like even in my late 30s now, I guess I'm not going to call it late 30, I'm going to call it mid 30. That from like when I was a teenager and in my 20s is you really start to care less about what other people think. And because I think you realize how much time and energy you've wasted on worrying about that. And you realize that it's just something that you're never going to be able to control. There's always somebody that's going to have something bad to say about you. And you can't control the way people
That's really
think of you.
interesting because what you just said, I pretty much had that figured out my whole life. I never really cared.
You never cared. I think I
never used
cared.
up any of my energy.
But in this day and age, oh God, I could care less. But
Right.
we're not on social media. I would hate
No, but
it.
I always cared. Like what, even
in your 20s and 30s, and that's our point. We never did, ever.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
never had to either because we weren't out there like you girls are. Like, the haters, you'll call them, people that
But I
say,
mean, I didn't have a podcast when I was in my 20s.
Right. So, but I'm just saying, like now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
mean,
think now I care even less
you
because
know how they talk about young kids and how they
the
put
social
things
media.
Up. Oh, it's
Yeah.
just awful.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that I didn't have a cell phone when I was
Yeah.
raising my kids because I would have ignored you even more
Right.
probably. I'm not kidding.
Oh, I know. You look at
Terrible.
that thing and the whole world is zoned out. Okay, this is going to be funny. I'm going to ask you guys what you think this term means, and I'm going to be listing words that the young generation uses, like it's Sophie's generation, really, Gen Z. These are like hip words that mean something. I want to see if you guys actually know. Okay, what do you think BDE means?
No clue.
No clue.
Okay, it means big dick energy.
No.
So like if somebody,
God.
so like somebody could be like, look, like they're like short or they don't dress well or maybe they don't have a lot of money but they have swag. It means like, okay, yeah, maybe he doesn't look like a movie star, but he's got BDE, so he's attractive. Girls like him, or like and boys want.
You want to know
his
something?
Friend.
I have a better one that Mike Monaghan taught me. Catnip.
What's that one?
That's what people meant. He'll describe men as having catnip.
Okay, but we're not
What does
asking
it
Mike
mean?
Monaghan
Yeah, what does it
what's
mean?
cool.
Catnip, like they have a certain attraction. People are attracted to them.
Oh, the man has catnip.
Yes.
Oh, so
This is my
so
mom's
women-
like 70-year-old friend. No, we're talking about what the cool kids are saying.
All right, but
not
anyway.
what the old people. Okay, BDE, it's not about anatomy. It's about confidence, calm, unbothered energy. Someone with BDE doesn't need to prove anything. Think quiet
It's
confidence.
swagger.
Yeah, it's swag. Okay, what do you think Delulu means?
Delusional.
Yeah, good job. Used playfully, like when someone's overly optimistic about a situation, you call them Delulu. She's Delulu. Okay. What do you think main character energy is?
has to be the center of attention.
Or front and center.
Kind of. It's a good thing, though. It's acting like you're the star of your own movie. You're confident, expressive, unbothered by background noise. So you want to have main character energy in your life. Okay. What do you think slay means?
Had a good night.
I think it makes you to somebody. I thought it means that people will laugh or something. They slay the audience. Like,
Slay a girl.
No. Ew,
I thought it
I'm
would
going to
be.
throw up. It's used to praise someone who's killing it, like looking good, doing something great, or owning it.
you
You're like,
slayed that.
slay.
Yeah.
Slay. Yeah, you slayed that. You did a great job. Okay. What's a soft launch?
no idea.
Soft launch. Well, in the restaurant business, the soft opening, it's just a little slow, casual. So, but I'm applying all this to like men and women. So I would see a soft launch as a guy who starts, or a girl that starts dating somebody and then just coming on slowly.
Sort of. You're on the right track.
Yeah.
A soft launch is when you're casually introducing a new relationship. So, like maybe on your Instagram, you'll drop like, you know,
Oh, you're already with
their
somebody.
hand, or like drop that you're at a restaurant with somebody, but you're not like, you're not giving a hard launch, which would be, this is my new boyfriend.
Because that's the whole thing. In our generation, you with somebody, you don't care to what level of integration you're going to take with other people. It's your girlfriend or it's whatever.
Yeah, but
That's
now
a
we
soft
live in a
launch, anything.
society where
Who cares?
well, it matters how you portray yourself on the internet. That's a good part,
Right.
a big part of, yeah.
Who's the love of your
I'm a
life?
hard launcher. Zach, duh.
Remember the old days when like you were the boss?
Yeah, I like those days
Oh,
better.
Because Aurora was to Olivia, Aurora was God.
Aurora
She was,
would let Olivia hang
yeah,
around
right.
with
It was
her.
like Cinderella. She's Cinderella, and Olivia was like Prunella or the other one, or I don't
No,
know.
that's not, because they were,
No,
yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Wrong
she was
fairy
the boss.
tale.
Yeah, wrong fairy
I'm
tale.
getting mixed up.
You didn't want to be Cinderella until she
No.
got the prince. Anyway, okay, what's cap, no cap mean?
No idea.
Remy says it.
Oh,
He
God.
does?
Yeah, he knows this one.
Like
Cap
uppercase
means,
letters.
Cap means lie. No cap means like for real, no lie. Be like, no cap. I promise, it's true. Like, I'm not lying.
What was wrong with
somebody
lie?
saying something you think it's a lie, you go, that's cap. Did I say that right?
Okay. How did you pick it up?
Me?
No,
I
Remy.
had it right from school. Okay, what's an ick
Gross.
when it pertains to dating and relationship?
Something that you can't stand about somebody.
Yeah.
Like if they blow their nose while you're eating dinner or something like that.
Yeah, but I go even further to say that it's something that takes you so off guard that now every nice thing you felt about this person is negated because they did this one weird thing and it was an ick and now they're done for you forever.
Oh, that's what an ick is?
Yeah, sort of. Okay, it's time to wrap. So this was fun. I feel like we have a lot more that we could cover, maybe different topics for next time you guys are around. But is there anything that you'd like to leave my audience with before I kick you guys out for my
No,
next
just know
guest?
that we love you. We do love her
Yeah, we love
very
you,
much.
Buffer.
Thanks.
And good luck with everything.
Thanks. You act like I'm not going to see you guys.
We're going out to dinner
Good
tomorrow
luck
night.
with life. All right. Well, over now. Thanks you guys for joining and come again.
Thank you.